There comes a moment in every person's life when something inside them begins to resist. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet question, a whisper in the mind. Why am I living like this? For years, you may follow the path that was given to you. You follow expectations. You follow trends. You follow opinions. You do what people say is safe. You believe what people say is true. And without realizing it, you slowly stop thinking for yourself. Most people never notice this happening. But some do. And the moment they notice it, everything changes. Because the moment you start thinking for yourself, you become dangerous. Not dangerous in the violent sense, but dangerous to systems that depend on obedience. Dangerous to manipulation. Dangerous to fear. Dangerous to anyone who benefits from you staying small. History shows us something fascinating. Every great thinker, leader, and reformer had one thing in common. They refused to let the world do their thinking for them. They questioned beliefs. They examined emotions. They challenged assumptions. They searched for truth inside themselves rather than waiting for the crowd to tell them what to believe. This idea sits at the very heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that true freedom begins the moment you reclaim your mind. When you stop reacting automatically. When you stop believing everything you're told. When you stop letting society dictate what success, happiness, and meaning should look like. Because when your mind becomes your own, you cannot easily be controlled. You cannot easily be manipulated. You cannot easily be broken. The Stoics understood something most people never realize. Your greatest weapon is not strength. It is not money. It is not status. Your greatest weapon is independent thought. And when you develop it, you begin to experience powerful psychological shifts. Your fears change. Your confidence grows. Your perception of reality sharpens. Your emotional stability strengthens. And suddenly the world starts seeing you differently. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily influenced. You become someone who thinks. Someone who questions. Someone who sees clearly. In other words, you become dangerous. In this video, we'll explore 10 powerful shifts that happen when you begin thinking for yourself, using insights from Stoic philosophy, real-life examples, and practical exercises you can start today. And if you stay until the end, the final shift might completely change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Shift 1. You stop seeking approval. One of the first things that changes when you start thinking independently is your relationship with approval. Most people live their entire lives seeking approval from parents, approval from friends, approval from society, approval from strangers on the internet. It becomes a silent addiction. Every decision is filtered through a single question: what will people think? But the moment you begin thinking for yourself, this question starts losing power. You realize something uncomfortable. The crowd rarely knows what it's doing. People are guessing, following trends, repeating opinions, and often defending beliefs they never examined. So why would their approval determine your life? The Stoics warned constantly about this trap. They believed the majority opinion often leads people away from truth rather than toward it. True freedom begins when approval stops controlling your decisions. A powerful real-life example of this shift can be seen in innovators. People like entrepreneurs, artists, or scientists who challenge conventional thinking. When they first express new ideas, society often rejects them. They're mocked, ignored, sometimes attacked. But the people who succeed are the ones who trust their thinking more than the crowd's reaction. And the same principle applies to everyday life. When you stop chasing approval, you gain something extraordinary. Mental independence. Suddenly you can make choices based on reason instead of fear. And that changes everything. Practical exercise: ask yourself this question today. If nobody could judge me, what decision would I make? Write the answer down. You may discover that your true thoughts have been buried under years of seeking approval. Shift 2. You develop inner confidence. Confidence is often misunderstood. Most people believe confidence comes from achievements, validation, or success. But Stoic thinkers saw confidence differently. They believed true confidence comes from clarity. When you think for yourself, you begin examining your beliefs. You test ideas. You analyze your reactions. You question assumptions. And gradually, your mind becomes sharper. This creates a unique kind of confidence. Not arrogance, but calm certainty. You know why you believe what you believe. You know why you act the way you act. You are not just copying the crowd. This makes your presence powerful. Because most people operate on borrowed opinions. They repeat ideas they've heard without examining them. But someone who thinks independently stands out. Their words carry weight, the decisions carry purpose, and people can feel the difference. This is why independent thinkers often appear calm even in chaotic situations. Their mind is their anchor. Shift 3. You become harder to manipulate. Manipulation thrives on unexamined thinking. When people react automatically, they're easy to influence. Fear-based headlines, emotional arguments, social pressure. All of these tactics rely on one thing: people not stopping to think. But when you develop independent thinking, something changes. You pause, you analyze, you ask questions like, who benefits from this belief? What evidence supports this claim? Am I reacting emotionally or rationally? This pause breaks the chain of manipulation. Suddenly you are not easily pushed by fear or persuasion. You evaluate information instead of absorbing it blindly. And that makes you extremely difficult to control. The Stoics believed reason is the ultimate defense against manipulation. When reason leads your thinking, emotional pressure loses its power. Shift 4. You start questioning everything. Independent thinking naturally leads to curiosity. You begin questioning beliefs that once felt unquestionable. Why do people measure success with money? Why do people fear failure so much? Why do social expectations control so many life decisions? These questions can feel uncomfortable. But they are the beginning of wisdom. Throughout history, progress has always started with people asking uncomfortable questions. Philosophers, scientists, inventors, reformers, all of them shared a willingness to challenge accepted ideas. And once you begin doing this, you start seeing the world differently. You realize many rules are simply habits repeated by society. And that realization is incredibly liberating. Shift 5. You become emotionally stronger. When you think independently, you begin examining your emotions rather than being controlled by them. Instead of reacting immediately, you ask, why do I feel this way? Is this emotion helping me or harming me? This self-examination builds emotional resilience. The Stoics believed emotions are powerful but must be guided by reason. Without reason, emotions can lead us into unnecessary suffering. But when reason guides them, emotions become sources of insight rather than chaos. For example, anger becomes a signal to investigate injustice. Fear becomes a signal to prepare more carefully. Sadness becomes a signal to reflect and grow. Instead of suppressing emotions, independent thinkers understand them. And that creates emotional stability. Shift 6. You stop following the crowd. Most people follow the crowd because it feels safe. If everyone else is doing something, it must be right. Not necessarily. History repeatedly shows crowds can be wrong. Financial bubbles, social panics, cultural trends that later seem irrational. The Stoics warned against blindly following popular opinion. They believed wisdom often requires standing apart from the majority. This doesn't mean rejecting every popular idea, it means evaluating ideas before accepting them. Independent thinkers ask, is this belief true, or just popular? That question alone separates thinkers from followers. Mid-video message before we continue with the next shifts. Take a moment to reflect on something. If even one of these shifts resonates with you, it means your mind is already beginning to question the automatic patterns most people live with. And that's powerful. Because thinking for yourself isn't something you suddenly master. It's something you slowly reclaim. One question at a time. One realization at a time. One moment of awareness at a time. And the deeper we go into these shifts, the more you'll start recognizing how powerful your mind truly is. So stay with me, because the next shifts are where independent thinking becomes truly transformative. Shift 7. You value truth over comfort. One of the most difficult shifts is choosing truth over comfort. Comfortable beliefs are easy to accept. They protect our ego. They simplify reality. They make life feel predictable. But they are not always true. Independent thinkers prioritize truth, even when it's uncomfortable. They're willing to admit when they're wrong. They're willing to change their minds when evidence changes. And this intellectual humility makes them stronger. Because their identity isn't tied to being right. It's tied to understanding reality. This mindset leads to continuous growth. Shift 8. You develop mental discipline. Thinking for yourself requires effort. It's easier to absorb opinions than analyze them. It's easier to react than reflect. But the Stoics believed mental discipline is one of the highest forms of strength. Independent thinkers train their minds like athletes train their bodies. They read deeply. They reflect daily. They analyze their reactions. They question assumptions. Over time, this mental discipline sharpens their perception. They begin seeing patterns others miss. And that gives them extraordinary clarity. Shift 9. You become comfortable standing alone. Thinking independently sometimes creates distance between you and the crowd. Your views may not always align with popular opinions. Your choices may confuse people. But the Stoics believed solitude is not weakness. It is strength. A person who depends on the crowd for validation will always be controlled by it, but someone who is comfortable standing alone becomes psychologically unstoppable. They can make decisions based on principles rather than pressure. Shift 10. You become the architect of your life. The final shift is the most powerful. When you think for yourself, you stop living reactively. You stop letting circumstances dictate your identity. Instead, you begin consciously designing your life. Your values become intentional. Your goals become meaningful. Your habits become purposeful. You are no longer drifting through existence. You are shaping it. And this idea was embodied by one of the most powerful leaders in history, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Despite ruling an empire and facing constant political pressure, he constantly reminded himself to think clearly and independently. In his personal writings, he reflected on controlling his own thoughts rather than allowing society's chaos to control them. Another Stoic teacher, Epictetus, was born a slave. Yet he taught that true freedom comes not from circumstances but from mastering one's mind. And the philosopher Seneca advised powerful leaders in Rome while constantly warning against blindly following public opinion. All three understood something timeless. Your mind is the only territory that truly belongs to you. Guard it, train it, use it wisely. Practical Stoic exercise. The daily thinking ritual. If you want to strengthen independent thinking, practice this simple Stoic exercise every day. Set aside 10 minutes. Ask yourself 3 questions. What belief did I accept today without questioning it? What emotional reaction did I have today that deserves deeper reflection? What decision did I make today based on reason rather than pressure? Write your answers down. Over time, this habit transforms your thinking patterns. You begin catching assumptions faster. You recognize emotional triggers sooner. You develop intellectual independence. Powerful conclusion: most people spend their lives trying to fit into the world. They follow the path that was already built. They repeat the beliefs they inherited. They measure success the way society tells them to, and because of this, they never truly discover their own mind. But the moment you begin thinking for yourself, life changes. You see manipulation more clearly. You see fear more objectively. You see opportunities others overlook. Your mind becomes quieter but stronger, calmer but sharper, less reactive, more intentional. And something remarkable happens. The world begins to feel different. Because instead of being pushed by it, you start navigating it. Independent thinking is not about arrogance. It is not about rejecting every opinion. It is about examining life with honesty and courage. It is about refusing to surrender your mind to the noise of the crowd. It is about building a life based on reason, values, and clarity. And once you reach that point, you become something powerful. Someone who cannot easily be manipulated. Someone who cannot easily be intimidated. Someone who cannot easily be controlled. You become someone who truly owns their life. And that is why independent thinkers have always been seen as dangerous. Not because they seek conflict, but because they seek truth. So if this video sparked something in your mind, if it made you question even one assumption, if it made you pause and think differently about your life, then your journey has already begun. Keep questioning, keep reflecting, keep sharpening your mind, because the world doesn't need more followers. It needs more thinkers. And if you want more Stoic insights like this to strengthen your mindset and help you master your thoughts, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because the more you train your mind, the more powerful your life becomes. And remember, the most dangerous person in the world is the one who finally learns how to think for themselves.